Tonight, the cost of living crisis as inflation hits 10.1%. Businesses warn the cycle of rising prices, wages and energy costs is crippling them.
It's a circle of crisis that it needs addressed. We need to find solutions to this problem.
And as kids head back to school, how parents are counting the cost. Some councils hand out £300 to help pay for uniforms, others just £120. And first class answers. What do Scotland's new primary ones think about the big day?
Okay, I'm excited that I can go and outside play. I'm looking forward to be outside, having lots of fun.
I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. The cost of living is on everyone's mind and it's getting worse. Inflation has now hit double digits to 10.1%, the highest rate in 40 years. And it's set to rise even more as schools go back. Making money go further is at the forefront of parents' minds.
Ahead of winter, further big rises are also due on energy bills. It all means the gap between the richest and poorest is the largest it's been since the financial crash. And the hospitality sector says it's in a circle of crisis due to rising costs and changing consumer habits. Ivana Holland reports.
Back to school. And while there might be a bit of trepidation for the children, it's the parents who are finding a way to keep going in the face of soaring inflation.
We're coming from Nigeria. We had situations like this several times, a couple of times, and when things like this happen, all we need to do is re-strategize.
Everything was, very expensive, and I was working part-time, so I didn't get my, grant on time, so I had to pay from my own, and so it was very, very hard.
It was more the school uniform and everything like that, and getting everything organised in time. The shops weren't great for having stuff. Everybody's obviously panic buying as well, so it was hard to do that.
I've got a Polish school here. We had to rise it from this year.
School staff say they're looking out for signs when households need support.
As a community, we're very good at watching closely and listening carefully for if there's any families needing help. We can see that through, a pattern of maybe changed behaviour. Maybe they've not told us verbally that they're needing help. In those instances, we will approach our families. We will even, go out to their homes in their safe space if that's what they need.
Not since 1982 has the UK reached double-digit inflation, with the biggest drivers including fuel and food, and that's hitting the pockets of the country's poorest the hardest. This hotel in Dunfermline says the changing habits of customers, like not dining out or renewing gym membership, mean they're trying to avoid passing the cost on to the client.
If we're quieter and people can't come out and use the hotel as often as they used to, it means that we don't need to have as many staff on duty, and so we reduce the number of hours that are available for our team members, which reduces the income they've got at home. So it's a circle of crisis that it needs addressed. We need to find solutions to this problem.
The jump in inflation is one of the highest monthly increases in the last 20 years.
So it's likely that the rate rises that the Bank of England are putting in place and that they're likely to continue to do over the next few months will bring down inflation in the medium to long term. That does little to help households in the short term though. Reducing people's energy bills in October will of course help, but compared to the sort of scale of rises we've seen, it's not really going to touch the side.
£400 will be paid out in 6 instalments by the UK government until March next year to help ease the financial burden. We'll find out next Friday how much the energy cap will increase by in October, with Citizens Advice warning 1 in 4 won't be able to afford their bills this winter. Ivana Holland, STV News.
Meanwhile, as kids head back to school, the cost of uniforms is weighing heavily on parents' minds as they try to do their sums. STV News can reveal that some councils hand out £300 to help meet the cost, others just £120.
And clothing banks, which give out uniforms, say they're busier than ever this week. Some schools are also opening their own uniform banks to help families struggling to clothe their kids, as Vanessa Taff reports.
Freshly pressed and ready for their first day, these uniforms have all been donated to help ease the burden of back-to-school costs. This clothing bank has been overwhelmed by the level of demand.
More and more people are waiting to the last minute to get uniform, whether that's they've not received a clothing grant or they've had the clothing grant and the money's gone. I've never seen such a big demand in the last few days going back to school as what there's been this year.
Normally, this voluntary organisation's running costs are around £100 a week, but now they've surged to almost £500.
The money we have in the bank at the moment will get us through the next couple of months. We are really struggling. By the time winter comes, we could be closed, shut up shop and vanished.
Back-to-school clothing grants are decided by local councils. They have to pay out a minimum of £120 for primary pupils and £150 for secondary students, but they can decide to pay more. West Dunbartonshire offers the most, with both secondary students and primary kids getting £300 each. In East Dunbartonshire, it's the same for secondary students, but less for primary at £240. Over in Stirling, it's the same for both, with £200 each. In two of Scotland's biggest council areas, Edinburgh and Glasgow, they're paying out the minimum amount.
For parents at the school gates this morning, the cost of getting their kids this far is at the forefront of their minds.
Well, he's one of four, so it's always expensive. Some things are more expensive than others. I think it's good that obviously they get the free school meals and all that at that age. But yeah, everything's going up, isn't it?
It's a lot more expensive nowadays, trying to keep everything. I think probably more for boys as well.
Because you try and get them what everybody else is kind of getting as well.
Staff at this school in Glasgow are working with parents to help manage the cost of uniforms by opening their own uniform bank.
It's about £120 for a uniform. If you're thinking about 5 days of the week and washing costs, etc., multiply that by, say, 4 children. If you get a family of 4, that is a lot of money. It's still that initial out cost, and as I say, not all our families can do that.
Glasgow City Council say eligible families will be given a payment of £130 in October and again at Christmas to help with schooling costs, while Edinburgh Council say this term's grant is an increase on the years before. Vanessa Taff, STV News.
The frontrunner to become the next Prime Minister says she will never ever allow the UK to split up. Liz Truss was speaking at a hustings event in Perth last night where she insisted the question of independence was settled in 2014.
Meanwhile, her rival to become the next Conservative leader, Rishi Sunak, says he could not imagine the circumstances in which he would allow another referendum. But the First Minister says neither will win an election in Scotland. Our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie, reports.
I will never, ever let our family be split up.
In a message lapped up by party members, both candidates made it clear whoever becomes Prime Minister will say no to a second vote on independence next year and beyond.
If I am elected as Prime Minister, I will not allow another independence referendum.
It is quite frankly balmy for politicians to be trying to focus on a divisive and unnecessary constitutional referendum at a time where people are worried about heating their homes. It's completely balmy.
I'll go back to the question then. Would you ever allow another independence referendum?
Of course, the union, I can't imagine the circumstances in which I would.
On the cost of living crisis, both also ruled out proposals to freeze the energy price cap this winter. Inside the hall, this husting cemented decisions and made up minds for others.
I'm quite pleased that they're both going to take a strong line on Nicola Sturgeon and looking out for Scotland.
What was it you heard tonight then that made you think Liz Truss is the candidate for you?
I think Liz Truss is just a wee bit more in touch with the sensibilities and the needs of everyday Scots and everyday Brits.
I'm guessing Rishi?
Yeah, Rishi, yeah.
What did you make of what you heard?
Very positive, I think. Very positive plans for the future, and I think he'll make a great Prime Minister.
All parties united to condemn protesters who hurled abuse and eggs at members as they arrived. However, they believe whoever wins this race will make little difference.
I don't think either of them will be a good Prime Minister. That's my opinion. Others may take a different view. But fundamentally, neither of them would win an election in Scotland. And that's the democratic deficit that Scotland is constantly expected just to put up with, that we have Prime Ministers taking massive decisions that affect our lives here and we don't vote for them.
This isn't change. This is more of the same. It's the same lies, the same cover-ups, the same failures. This is just Boris Johnson with neater hair but without the jokes. And frankly, Scotland and the UK deserves better than that, and the only real alternative is a Labour government.
In less than 3 weeks, the new Prime Minister will have to address the concerns of voters beyond party members. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
You'll have seen our political editor Colin Mackay was chairing the hustings and he joins us now. Colin, was there a winner?
It felt to me as if Liz Truss certainly got the best response from Conservative Party members in the hall last night. A lot of people there said at the start that they hadn't made up their minds, but I think that was clarified for quite a few of them throughout the evening. Liz Truss came across as more confident, with more personality. There were times when it felt as if Rishi Sunak was almost just going through the motions because he knows that Liz Truss is the favourite and everybody thinks that she's going to win. They tried to outdo each other, as you heard in Ewan's report there, in terms of their opposition to independence. I think Liz Truss came out slightly tougher on that. They're both resolutely opposed to freezing the energy price cap, and I think Rishi Sunak came out slightly tougher on that. And that's going to be the biggest challenge for the new Prime Minister when they get to number 10. How are they going to get the UK through the cost of living crisis? Neither of them had an answer last night. That's something they're going to have to come up with pretty soon. But at the hustings, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak were really focused on talking to the 600 or so Conservative members who have got a vote in this, who were in Perth Concert Hall last night. They weren't really talking to thousands of people who were watching it on the STV News website, or even more who've been catching up with it on the news throughout today. But that's something they are going to have to deal with, because we're all going to find out on the 5th of September who's the next Prime Minister. We're going to find out whether they've got a plan and what it's like.
Colin in Edinburgh, thank you. A retired firefighter has told the Cameron House inquiry that if he had known that a couple who died in the blaze were unaccounted for, he would have gone straight to their room. Another firefighter also said he had felt confident no one else was left in the burning hotel after he'd rescued a family of 3.
More hotel guests have also been giving evidence. One woman described how she'd crawled through thick smoke to flee. Our chief reporter Sharon Frew was in court.
A fire crew from Ballet was the first to reach Cameron House. When they arrived, they already knew a 2-year-old child and his parents were trapped on the upper floor. Retired Watch Commander Graham Atwell, seen here in the middle, told the inquiry once the family had been rescued by ladder, he was extremely happy. The majority of the guests were on the grass outside at the time. He said while he couldn't remember asking staff, he got the impression everyone else was out. This inquiry has been looking in detail at the timeline of events on the 18th of December 2017. A minute after the family's rescue, officers were still trying to establish if an official roll call of all guests had been taken. Over an hour later, crews were told 2 people from room 8 were still missing. Watch Commander Russell Mackay was one of 3 firefighters to remove Simon Midgley and Richard Dyson, who were found on a stairwell in between the 1st and 2nd floor around 30 minutes later. Both had died from smoke inhalation. Mr Mackay told the inquiry if he had known while he was carrying out an initial sweep of the building that the 2 men were unaccounted for, he would have gone straight to room 8. Other guests staying in the traditional part of the hotel told the inquiry that a piercing fire alarm had woken them up that morning. A man described leaving his room and seeing a red haze of flames through the glass door. A woman fleeing with her friend said they had knocked on their neighbour's door to alert them. Inside was a family of 4. The witness said how they got out and found the fire escape through all that smoke was a blur. Pauline Booth, who was in a suite on the 1st floor with her husband Scott, said they were lucky to get out as they thought they were trapped. Mrs Booth described crawling on all 4s below the black smoke to try and reach the main staircase leading to reception, as they at that time thought that was the only way they could escape.
Mrs Booth recalled how her husband told her he could see flames at the bottom of the stairs, so told her to turn around. She said in the darkness she was feeling her way along the walls, searching for doorways. They found an opening, and she told the inquiry as soon as they went through that door to another part of the hotel, it was like a different world. There was no smoke.
Mrs Booth became upset as she recalled meeting Simon Midgley and Richard Dyson the evening before the blaze. She had said goodnight to them as they were having a nightcap. She told the inquiry the couple looked like they were having a nice night and enjoying themselves. The inquiry will continue tomorrow. Sharon Frew, STV News.
Time to look at other stories, and postal workers have voted overwhelmingly in favour of additional strike action. 97% of voting members of the Communication Workers Union backed additional national walkouts. Strikes by Royal Mail staff are already planned later this month and in September.
Tributes are continuing to the singer Darius Campbell-Dinesh, whose death was announced yesterday. Simon Cowell says it's an absolute tragedy and that his heart goes out to family and friends. Gareth Gates, runner-up in the year Darius competed in Pop Idol, says he's heartbroken and that he had been like a big brother to him.
Now, dancers from the Ukrainian Freedom Ballet dream of performing at the Edinburgh Festival, but it's been in doubt this year, with men banned from leaving the country after Russia's invasion.
For 1 month, the company's male performers have been given special dispensation from the Ukrainian government to perform in Scotland while they wait to be called up to war. Polly Bartlett reports.
Rehearsing in their Edinburgh studio. This is a moment the Ukrainian Freedom Ballet thought would never come.
We want to come a few years ago, but we have so much work in Ukraine in a peaceful time. But now we have not work, have not projects, our concerts, we cannot perform there. And knowing about Edinburgh, about Fringe, we decided to come here and celebrate our 20th anniversary and representing Ukraine, of course, because this is the very best year to do this.
With the rest of the men in the company, Igor will return to war duties at the end of the Fringe. His wife and young family fled Ukraine at the start of the invasion. They've now made it to Edinburgh to watch him perform.
It's so emotional, for me, this all the situation that take part in Ukraine, all this war with Russia, and every day we need to go to shelters because air alarms are taking parts like a few times a day, every day.
This group is famous back home in Ukraine, and they hope the show will be just as popular with an international audience.
This is the job of our lives. We love dancing and we love our job, and for all of us, it's a second family and a second life.
Culture is very important for our people that involved in war news, and they need to breathe out, to breathe in the culture, to breathe out the war, and just relax a little bit for 1 hour, 2 hours.
Igor says the performances are giving an important voice to the people of Ukraine at a time when they need it the most. Polly Bartlett, STV News, Edinburgh.
Rail passengers in Glasgow are being warned of significant disruption on the network tomorrow because of further industrial action. While ScotRail isn't directly affected by the dispute between the RMT and Network Rail, it will impact services it runs, with only 11 routes operating. Susan Ripple reports.
The signs are back up, and tomorrow, once again, it'll be a limited train service from Queen Street and other stations across Scotland. Members of the RMT union employed by Network Rail will be walking out over pay.
I think it's just going to escalate all this. Everybody's wanting pay rises, aren't they? It's dire.
Good on them. They should do, yeah. Union should be behind them and making better deals for them.
It's impacting the people's pay. They might have depended on the livelihoods, so something should be compensated for sure.
ScotRail staff aren't involved in the action tomorrow, but services have been significantly reduced. The trains that are still operating will only run between 7:30 in the morning and 6:30 at night.
And just like before, it's going to have an impact on the following day, particularly in the mornings.
At Network Rail signal boxes, there's a staggered shift pattern in the morning. That means the routes aren't available to ScotRail until later in the morning in some areas. So the advice to passengers is, please visit the ScotRail website, download the app, check before you travel so you know exactly what's happening on Friday morning.
We've got the action tomorrow, Thursday and Saturday, and our National Executive Committee will meet after that, evaluate the situation and make plans accordingly from there. But we hope, and even at the 11th hour, we still hope that common sense can prevail, good industrial relations can be back on the agenda, we can get this strike resolved and get people back to work for the benefit of the people of Britain.
Platform 1 for the... There'll be double the number of trains running tomorrow compared to previous strike days, but it'll still cause a lot of disruption for passengers. Susan Ripple, STV News, Glasgow.
Let's go to the sport now, and here's Ronnie.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Giovanni van Bronckhorst says his Rangers players must give it everything when they head to Eindhoven next week with their Champions League playoff tie in the balance. It was a 2-2 draw at Ibrox last night, but the Dutchman's confident they can progress in what is now a £40 million match in the Netherlands.
At moments we played really well, but we're playing against a quality side. I think the differences over 90 minutes, I think you could see in the score wasn't that big. So happy with the performance. We could have had a better result, but also a result who was worse, I think. So everything to play for next week when we travel to Eindhoven. I'm confident we have the chance in one game to go through. It's still even. So. We have to go out there and play for everything, and that's group stage of the Champions League.
Both teams are very level in quality with playing styles, so it's really reduced to one game now.
Meanwhile, the club have today confirmed James Tavernier has agreed a new long-term deal at Ibrox. The captain, who joined Rangers in 2015, has made 353 appearances to date. He says it was a no-brainer and cannot wait to see what the coming years have to bring. Celtic captain Callum McGregor admits he would love to face holders Real Madrid in the group stages of the Champions League. After winning the Premiership, Celtic go straight into the draw next week. McGregor says they've benefited from not having to play early season qualifiers and is hoping for a glamour tie.
Probably the one that I think most of the Celtic fans would like is Real Madrid. Probably similar in terms of I've not played against them yet. But we know that anybody we get drawn against will be a top team. It's definitely been a sort of slower start to the season in terms of the games and the number of games that we've played. But it's also given us good time to train and prepare really well for the games that we have had.
Elsewhere, Kilmarnock boss Derek McInnes admits he's relaxed about the club's results in the first few league games of the season, despite not yet picking up a win. The Rugby Park side have faced Dundee United, Rangers and Celtic in the first 3 Premiership rounds, but McInnes says the performances will come.
I think normally the first couple of rounds of fixtures normally gives you an indication of where you're going to be, so we're quite relaxed about it. I'm quite, I see the motivation of the players, I see their honesty, their work ethic. We wanted now to hopefully show a wee bit more of our quality and a wee bit more of us in possession than we've been able to in the last couple of games.
That's your sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Sean has the weather. It's not great.
Watch out for a sudden temperature drop. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, after a rather chilly start to the day, it's actually not been feeling too bad out there this afternoon. That sunshine, highs of 18, 19 degrees. OK, 10 degrees down on where we were at the weekend, but still feeling nice given the fact we've got light winds. And it should be a fine evening for many of us as well. We'll start to see some rain coming back into the Hebrides by the end of the night. That means the temperatures tonight probably staying a bit higher than last night, 12 to 14 degrees Celsius. So tomorrow morning, a rather cloudy start to the day, outbreaks of rain for many of us. This little weather front coming through and breaking up the cloud across the Hebrides, probably late morning, early afternoon. And then we'll see the clouds starting to break elsewhere during the afternoon too. But with the sunshine coming out, it will pep those showers up a wee bit. So some of them will turn out to be heavier. as the sun comes out during the afternoon. So a day of sunny spells, scattered showers, top temperatures up to 18 degrees. So again, the sunshine, not feeling too bad, but it's not going to be as dry as today. Of course, we'll have to dodge those showers as well. Lots of showers around on Friday, and it popped some dark clouds in there because a lot of those showers will be on the heavy side. Best of drier, sunnier weather in the north. Over the last day or so, I've been saying that we're going to get some rain on Saturday, the next spell of rain. And again, some of that could be on the heavy side. Now, it looks as if for us, the bulk of that rain should come through during the morning. It takes a wee bit longer to clear from the likes of East and South Ayrshire and South Lanarkshire. But once it does, we're into sunshine and showers, but blustery showers in the west. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels. Sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, we started the programme hearing from parents about the cost of living as pupils head back to the classroom.
But of course, for kids going to school for the first time, it's all about their hopes and dreams. Our reporter Caroline Lewis has been chatting to some new P1s.
It was all smiles and a little style for the first day of school. Well, for the most part. But these youngsters wasted no time getting stuck into their education. So how are they feeling ahead of the big day?
I'm excited that we go and outside play. I'm looking forward to be outside, having lots of fun.
But while most had socialising as the top priority, others were focused on a more important part of the day.
What are you looking forward to doing at school today? Snack time.
Snack time?
Yeah.
And now they're at big school, it's time to look ahead for the future. Some already have noble ambitions.
I want to be a doctor because I want to help people get better.
While others are aiming for royalty.
A princess.
And why do you want to be a princess?
Because I always done like a princess.
And some are just hoping to make it like their heroes.
What did you tell me you wanted to be when you grow up? Spider-Man.
Why do you want to be Spider-Man?
Because I want Spider-Man powers.
Well, it's good to know that from day one, these children are ready to take on the world. Caroline Lewis, STV News.
I just can't believe nobody said they want to be John Mackay when they grow up. Outrageous.
Oh, yes, wearing makeup all day. What? Fantastic. Why wouldn't you? Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Oh, dear.